All right, book divers. Back
Yeah.
again with another deep dive. Those morning commutes can really drain your brain, but not for you guys. Not for you.
That's right. You're leveling up with Book Dive.
Exactly. So, hey, if you're enjoying this deep dive, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss one. So, today we're going to be exploring The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
It's a classic.
Yeah, you probably see it everywhere. It's been praised by tons of publications and readers, like Forward Magazine, Thunderbird Bookshop. They call it one of the most important spiritual books.
And for good reason.
Yeah. So let's dive in and see what it's all about.
Sounds good.
So what is this book all about? I know it's supposed to be about like spiritual enlightenment and stuff.
It is, and it's really about finding more peace and joy in our everyday lives.
Okay. I mean, who doesn't want more peace, more joy? Sign me up.
Right.
But like, how do we get there?
Well, the core idea is that we need to learn to really live in the present moment. And Tolle says that most of our suffering comes from, living in our heads, constantly thinking about the past or worrying about the future.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. I'm like a time traveler gone wrong.
Right. And all that mental time travel, it really makes us miss out on the only reality that actually exists.
Which is
the
odd.
present moment.
Yeah, okay. So it's like we're watching a movie of our lives instead of actually, living them.
Exactly. And that disconnect, that lack of presence, it's where all the suffering comes in.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually like break free from this mental time travel trap?
So Tolle says it starts by understanding something he calls the pain body.
Okay, the pain body.
Yeah, imagine it like this, like a grumpy roommate that's always complaining.
Oh, I've had that roommate.
Right. And this pain body, it's basically a collection of all the negative emotions we've accumulated over time.
Mm-hmm.
And the pain body, it loves to be fed. It thrives on our resistance to the present moment, our worries, our anxieties, our regrets.
So the more we dwell on the negative stuff, the stronger this pain body gets.
Exactly.
And good.
Not good. And that's why Tolle says the key to freedom is accessing what he calls the power of now.
Okay, the power of now. But what does that even mean?
Well, it's not about, going into some kind of trance.
Yeah.
Or ignoring our problems.
Okay.
It's really about cultivating a state of conscious presence.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like turning up the volume on your awareness of what's happening right now, both inside and outside of you.
Okay.
So you notice your breath, your senses, your thoughts and emotions, but you don't get swept away by them.
So instead of like being lost in our thoughts, we're kind of observing them from a distance.
Exactly. It's about creating some space between us and that constant chatter of the mind.
Okay, that makes sense. But like, how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
Our minds are really good at distracting us.
They are, but Tolle gives us some practical techniques to help us become more present.
Okay, like what?
Well, one of the simplest is to focus on our breath.
Yep.
We're always breathing, but by consciously paying attention to each inhale and exhale, it really helps us anchor ourselves in the present moment.
It's like a reset button for the mind.
Exactly. And another technique is to simply observe our thoughts without judgment.
Okay.
It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. You notice them, but you don't get caught up in them.
So instead of fighting our thoughts, we're kind of acknowledging them and letting them go.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a subtle shift, but it can be incredibly powerful.
This is making sense, but there's one concept I'm still kind of struggling with, and that's this idea of surrender.
Oh, yeah, surrender.
Like, I get it, it's easy to accept the present moment when everything's going great.
Uh-huh.
But what about when we're facing challenges or pain or even suffering?
Mm-hmm.
How can we surrender to that?
That's a great question, and one that a lot of people struggle with. The thing is surrender, as Tolle describes it. It's not about giving up
Okay.
or becoming a doormat.
Got it.
It's about recognizing that our resistance, our struggle against what is actually what creates most of our suffering.
So we're making things harder for ourselves by trying to control everything.
Often, yes, it's like trying to swim against a strong current. You might make a little progress, but you're going to exhaust yourself.
Yeah.
Surrender in this context is more like turning your body and letting the current carry you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you're giving up, but rather you're finding a wiser, more effortless way to navigate the situation.
Okay. I like that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes surrender seem less like weakness and more like a strategic choice.
Exactly. It's about aligning ourselves with the flow of life rather than fighting against it.
That's really helpful, but I got to be honest, I'm still a little hesitant about this whole surrender thing.
Yeah.
It feels like it goes against everything we've been taught about, striving for success, overcoming obstacles.
I understand your hesitation. Our culture definitely emphasizes striving and achieving, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But Tolle invites us to consider that sometimes our relentless pursuit of goals and our resistance to what is actually blocks us from experiencing true peace and fulfillment.
So it's not about giving up on our dreams, but about approaching them from a more conscious and present-centered place.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our happiness doesn't depend on achieving some future goal,
Yeah.
but rather on our ability to fully embrace the present moment, whatever it may hold.
I love it. So it's about finding joy in the journey, not just the destination.
Precisely.
I think I'm starting to get the surrender thing, but it's definitely something I need to keep reflecting on.
It's a practice for sure. And speaking of practice, Tolle provides some really interesting insights into how these principles of presence and surrender can transform our relationships.
Okay, relationships. That's a topic I definitely want to dive into. But first, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more from The Power of Now. All right, book divers. So we're back and ready to dive deeper into the power of now.
Okay.
And before the break, we were starting to talk about relationships, which I think is a topic everyone can relate to.
Oh, absolutely.
Because let's face it, relationships can be both amazing and really challenging at times.
Definitely a mixed bag, right?
So how does the power of now apply to relationships?
Well, Tolle actually dedicates a whole section of the book to what he calls enlightened relationships.
Enlightened relationships. Okay, so does that mean like you have to find a partner who's already some kind of spiritual guru?
Not necessarily. It's not about finding the perfect partner as much as it is about the way we relate to each other.
Okay.
You know, a lot of relationships get stuck in these patterns where partners are basically mirroring each other's unresolved issues and negativity, what Tolle calls the pain body.
Oh, yeah, the pain body. We talked about that.
Right. So it's like you bring your pain body to the party and I bring mine, and then they start tangoing.
Oh, sounds messy.
It can be, it's like when you're already in a bad mood and your partner forgets to take out the trash and suddenly it's World War III over garbage.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. It's not really about the trash, is it?
Oh.
It's about those deeper wounds and unmet needs that we're all carrying around.
Okay, so how do we break free from those patterns and create healthier, more loving relationships?
Well, Tolle believes that the foundation of an enlightened relationship is two individuals who are committed to their own inner work, you know, to becoming more conscious and present in their own lives.
So they're not looking to their partner to like
No.
complete them or fix their problems.
Way, they're showing up as whole, complete individuals rather than trying to fill some void in each other.
I like that. But let's be realistic. Most of us aren't, fully enlightened beings. We're all still works in progress.
Of course.
So how do these principles actually play out, in the messy reality of everyday relationships?
Well, one of the most powerful things we can do is to become aware of our own reactive patterns in relationships.
Okay.
You know, notice when you're getting triggered, when those old buttons are getting pushed.
Yeah.
And instead of just reacting unconsciously, you pause, take a breath, and choose a more conscious response.
Okay. Easier said than done, right?
It takes practice, but it can make a huge difference.
Yeah, because instead of automatically going into attack mode,
Yeah.
you're creating space for understanding and compassion.
Exactly. And over time, as we become more present in our interactions, we start to relate to our partners from a deeper place, a place of love and acceptance rather than fear and judgment.
Okay, but what about those times when you're in a relationship with someone who isn't really interested in doing this inner work?
Yeah.
Can one person's presence really make a difference in a dynamic like that?
That's a tough one, and Tolle acknowledges that it can be very challenging to be in a relationship with someone who's deeply entrenched in their egoic patterns.
So the partner who's not doing the work might actually sabotage the relationship.
It's possible they might unconsciously try to create drama or conflict to pull the other person back into those old familiar patterns.
Ooh, that sounds frustrating.
It can be, but Tolle emphasizes that the most important thing is to stay anchored in your own presence. It's like being a lighthouse in a storm. You can't control the waves, but you can provide a steady beacon of light.
I love that analogy.
So it's about holding that space of awareness and compassion even when the other person is acting out.
Okay, and it's not about trying to change them or force them to become more enlightened.
Right.
It's about recognizing that everyone is on their own journey, and we can only control our own responses.
Exactly.
This makes me think about the bigger picture. If we can apply these principles to our personal relationships, can we also apply them to the world as a whole? I mean, can individual awakening actually create a ripple effect that transforms society?
That's a great question, and it's something that Tolle explores in depth, and his answer is a resounding yes.
Really?
He believes that the state of the world is a reflection of our collective consciousness.
Mm.
So all the conflict, the violence, the suffering we see in the world, it's a manifestation of our collective egoic patterns.
Wow. So it's like we're all connected, for better or for worse.
Exactly. And as individuals awaken to their true nature, to their inherent connection with all beings, it creates a shift in that collective consciousness.
And as that shift gains momentum, it starts to manifest in the outer world as more peace, harmony, compassion. Okay, I'm buying it, but if I'm honest, sometimes the world feels so messed up that it's hard to believe that individual actions can really make a difference.
I hear you. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the negativity in the world. But Tolle reminds us that even a small shift in consciousness can have a ripple effect.
Mm.
He compares it to dropping a pebble into a pond.
Yeah.
The ripples spread out, touching everything in their path.
So by cultivating presence and compassion in our own lives, we're essentially creating those ripples of positive energy that can ultimately transform the world.
Exactly.
This is giving me so much hope, but I'm also wondering, what about all the spiritual teachings and practices out there?
Yeah.
What role do they play in this process of awakening?
Well, Tolle acknowledges that teachings and practices can be helpful guides on the path to awakening,
Okay.
but he also cautions against getting too attached to them.
Hmm.
He says that they're like signposts pointing the way, but they're not the destination itself.
So we shouldn't get too caught up in the dogma or the rituals.
Right. It's about finding our own unique path to awakening.
He's encouraging us to become our own teachers, to trust our inner wisdom.
Exactly. And to discover what works best for us on our own journey.
This is also fascinating. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the actual process of awakening. How does it happen? Is it like a sudden flash of insight, or is it a gradual unfolding?
It is a gradual unfolding for most people. It's not like you just suddenly become enlightened.
Yeah.
It's more like a process of, shedding layers of conditioning and waking up to who we truly are.
Okay, so how does that happen? What does it even mean to wake up to who we truly are?
Well, Tolle describes it as a shift in consciousness from what he calls mind identification to being.
Mind identification to being, okay.
It's about recognizing that we're not our thoughts, our emotions, our bodies, but something deeper, something more essential.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but what is that something deeper? What is being?
He calls it being.
Yeah.
It's our true nature, pure consciousness, the awareness that's always present beneath the surface of our thoughts and feelings.
And how do we access that?
Through presence. By becoming aware of the present moment without judgment, we create a space for that deeper awareness to emerge.
So it's like we're reclaiming our consciousness from the grip of the mind.
Exactly. We've become so entangled in our thoughts that we've forgotten who we truly are.
Okay, so we need to practice presence to awaken to being.
Oh.
But are there specific techniques that can help us along the way?
Absolutely. Tolle offers several practical tools. We've already talked about focusing on the breath, observing our thoughts without judgment. He also emphasizes the importance of inner body awareness.
Inner body awareness. What's that, and how does it relate to awakening?
Well, think about how most of the time we're focused outwards on our surroundings, our
Yeah.
to-do lists, the people around us. Inner body awareness is about shifting that attention inwards, tuning into the sensations of our physical being.
So instead of being lost in our heads, we're bringing our awareness into our bodies.
Exactly. And Tolle suggests that our bodies are not separate from being, but rather a manifestation of it. So by becoming aware of our bodies from within, we can access that deeper dimension of themselves. He even calls the inner body a portal to the unmanifested.
Okay, the unmanifested. That sounds a bit mysterious. What is that?
It is. But it's not something out there somewhere. Tolle uses this term to describe the realm of pure consciousness, the source from which all things arise.
So the unmanifested is within us.
Exactly. It's the essence of who we are, and we
Right.
can access it through presence and inner body awareness.
Wow, so by cultivating presence and tapping into the unmanifested, we're essentially connecting with the source of all creation.
That's the idea. It's about realizing our oneness with all that is, which is the essence of enlightenment.
This has been such a mind-expanding deep dive. I feel like we've covered so much ground
I
today.
have. We've explored the problem of mind identification, the power of present moment awareness, the transformative potential of surrender, the dynamics of enlightened relationships, and even the possibility of a collective shift in consciousness.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the beauty of the power of now is that it's not meant to be grasped all at once.
Right.
It's a book that unfolds, gradually revealing new layers of insight each time we return to it.
I know, I'm definitely going to be revisiting this one. And for our listeners who are ready to explore it further, you can find an affiliate link in the description where you can purchase a copy.
Highly recommend it.
Absolutely. All right, book divers, that's it for our deep dive into the power of now.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the incredible power that lies within each and every one of you.